I'm Deirdre Cross. I'm a VP at Funko Games.
So did you talk about, I'm interested in your process when you design these games and how you get this IP, like Rear Window, that's an Alfred Hitchcock property. You guys use a lot of Universal properties. How did that come? How do those relationships come about? Do they start at the design phase? Do they start before the design phase?
Yeah, with something like Rear Window, we've just, around here, we have a lot of fandoms, like a lot of people do. We're interested in a lot of different things, but really we got to talking about sort of, classic whodunit and mystery and intrigue and stuff. And we kept coming back to Alfred Hitchcock and these great stories. And so being a part of Funko, we have an incredible licensing team, and they reached out to the folks who control the Rear Window IP, as well as they reached out to Grace Kelly and Jimmy Stewart's estates so that we could make sure they were included in the game. I mean, who's looking out the window is so important to this story. And so to get to include them as well is like unbelievable for fans of the show. So it was it's really special. But I mean, it's just a story that is close to our hearts, but it also seems like it's kind of current too in the zeitgeist, even though it's a sort of a vintage license.
You guys have so many different products, and you guys have so many games always in the works. Is it hard balancing everything that's coming out? It gives us such a wide catalog of games and board games.
Yeah, well, it is. Our team here, Funko Games is only 3 years old, but our team here has about 20 years of experience working together, making lots of games. And within that, we have people who are truly specialists at what they do. So we can, work on a lot of these different projects simultaneously and kind of keep them separate. But at the same time, because we're all gamers, game makers, and we just love playing games, it's so wonderful because when, a group is working on Rear Window and some other group in the studio is working on another game like Jurassic World Legacy, they can play each other's games and inform and lift up the design across the board. Yeah.
You talk about some of the challenges, like with Rear Window, like how long do you play test that? Like what's the design time look like from concept to play test to actual having the physical finished product in your hand, or even the prototype?
Right. Gosh, I'm trying to think back because we really wanted we wanted the story, plus we wanted the actual people themselves to be included in the game. The licensing part of it took a bit of time. And sort of by the time that was secured, we really had a pretty clear picture of what we wanted the story, or how we wanted the story to play out on the table. So I want to say this one was probably maybe 18 months sort of in the making. I think maybe about 18 from initial concept to finished product sitting on my desk.
I mean, that's got to be a challenge as well, because in video games, if something's broken or needs fixing, you just patch it, right? You send it to the magical server and it's patched. A board game, I mean, you could errata, but you probably don't want to do that. Like, talk about that process. It's really important how much you guys play test this stuff, because you can't just patch it and change it at will.
Oh my gosh, Greg, you get it. I mean, it's so true. If there's something that's not right, it is much harder or slower to issue a patch. But when we're working on a game like this, one thing that was great in the development, we started working on it during the pandemic lockdown period, where so many of our products we had to move to playtesting and tools like Tabletop Simulator or things like that. And so what was great about that, you could set the game and send it out to a lot more groups. It's actually in that software kind of way, we could be implementing fixes very fast and not have to go and recut all the prototypes and ship them out. And so for iterating, especially early in the process, that made it really nice, because they could make a lot of changes to how things work and try it out. But because this is a tabletop experience, you really do, at some point, you've got to get together and play this thing and say, what does it feel like for me to be on this side of the screen and you on that side of the screen? How, and in this case, I mean a physical screen, not a digital screen. But what is it like when I'm over here and I'm trying to convey a bunch of information to you? How does it work? How does it feel? How can we connect with the story? So playtesting in person and workshopping the game in person was very important, as once we got past that that high-speed iteration part of the process.
I mean, you're no stranger to board games in general, but you guys have a really interesting design phase in all of them, and they're like asymmetrical. Like a lot of like the Goonies for Window, it's like a DM or a GM, and then like 2 or 4 people playing with that, as opposed to just having 4 people all fight each other or 4 people all work cooperatively. Can you talk about, like, you guys seem to love that kind of format. What goes into a game design with something like that? Well,
we really we absorb the source material. That's one of the very first things. I mean, we were like, who's a fan of this story? Who's a fan of Hitchcock, of this film? Like, kind of, see who's got the deep fandom. And then like also everybody else working on the project will do a deep dive to really understand it. So when we're working on something like this, it's like, well, there is, we start to realize, while it's a story about looking across the courtyard and trying to decipher if there was a murder, the hand of the director pulling the puppet strings, telling that story, meeting it out slowly over the course of the film is really core to that experience. Because we thought, well, can we just randomly deal these things out and you're trying to figure out what's going on? But you needed that consciousness to really tell a story out on the tabletop. And so that consciousness was very important. And that's to say, when we're developing something like Pan Am per se, that one, it's like, is there a consciousness? Is it important that there's like, or would it be, competitive? Like, where in that game we're all our own separate airlines, and Pan Am is the AI, and nobody's playing as Pan Am, right? And so while you did cite a couple of things that have this asymmetrical style, and you're not wrong, we do like it. We always want to, at the outset and continually through the process, make sure that what we're doing serves the story. If we're, doing something based on an IP, we keep coming back to that. Is this right for the story that's in the original movie or series or book or airline? So yeah, that, I think it comes from the root of the entertainment.
You guys also, like you said, do you pull from other games you're designing? Always, you said your team is always crisscrossing and trying each other's games. So I'm sure all the time you guys are citing each other's games of separate teams, saying, you would be better if this changed, or it'd be better if that changed, or take this out, or add this. I'm sure that goes on all the time.
Oh yeah, it's highly collaborative, and that's one of the reasons, like, the game is signed as Prospero Hall, because everybody is might give a little note, or even our playtest manager, he's going to play the game before it goes out for playtesting, just so he can understand like who should be playing this. He might play it and be like, oh, this was interesting. I noticed something about the card play here would be interesting. And all of those, everybody's experiences are taken into consideration, especially if you imagine, like, you get the game out into the world, if one person here has an experience and that something sort of makes them think that we could smooth out an edge here or there in the product, that will create an opportunity for us to improve the game for someone else as well.
I know you probably can't talk a lot about this stuff, but are there any fun stories you can share about, working with the Hitchcock estate and the actors estate to like get them into the game? Any fun like revisions you had to make or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, they were so amazing. And I think, one of the thing that's so great when we have the opportunity to work with licensors who really, they know us and they trust us, right? And they're like, you guys are making something and you guys are doing it. It's your business, and they want to make sure we're representing everything nicely and it's beautiful and everything, but really kind of letting us run on the gameplay. It was a great experience, a really great partnership with this team. And in fact, this is the instruction book here. So it looks like a magazine that they read inside of the film. But then we thought, because of the era of it, wouldn't it be funny if on the back of it was an ad for Pan Am? And they were like, that's
a
cool.
twofer. That's a twofer right there. So we call that.
Yeah, we were like, oh, we'll make it look like that. And, they were like, that's fun. And the Pan Am people were like, that's fun, right? And it is, because it's totally in period with the game and the story and everything else. So.
No, the one thing you guys do great is your attention to detail. The Back to the Future game is like, in the Goonies game, absolutely a ton of throwbacks to the films, even like the small little niche stuff that not a lot of people would recognize. Like, you guys do a ton of research and development when it comes to just the visual aesthetic of the game.
Well, we're obsessed. I think you can tell.
As a more broader spectrum in your field, what are the challenges when it comes to retail physical market? Because I know card specialties, I guess you call them specialty stores, don't have a lot of shelf space, and there's only like one or maybe two big retailers in the US, like Walmart and Target, that you could sell to exclusivity or give them first run. I believe the Rocketeer was not exclusive, but a first run at Target. Was it? It was not?
Nope, Target didn't carry it. It was actually, we held it as first to market for the hobby channel.
Okay, that's what it was, one of first market to someplace. So can you talk about that process? Like, how do you negotiate exclusivity first market? How do you make sure everybody's happy and everyone's getting what they want?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us over the years have come to see Mass as a great opportunity, as a launching pad to sort of propel a game into the consciousness of both the gaming side of the industry, but also into regular households who maybe haven't bought a game in a decade or two, right? Like, they're just happen by and this thing catches their eye. And a nice opportunity for us when there is a launch partner like that is that it really does launch the game, because the tail for a game is very long. Should we be so lucky, right? You might get to have a game on the shelf for 10 years or something. And it would be, it's like the first to market window, if there is one, is, just the very first conversation with the customer and the fan. And then the long tail is carried on in hobby, and in all sorts of retail broadly across the categories. So when those opportunities happen where we partner with a specific retailer, it's usually just that hot marketing launch sort of opportunity. And then we do like to go broad and look for ways to continue to sustain that conversation with the customer.
And then my last question for you is, when does Rear Window come out and where can people buy a copy?
Yeah, Rear Window comes out, I want to say in June. I think it comes out in June, and it is going to be broadly available wherever games are sold. And if you want to see it at your FLGS, we encourage you to ask for it so that they know to ask for it as well. There's a lot of newness coming every year, thousands of new games. And so to cut through that clutter, it always helps if folks ask for it so they know, go get it from their distribution channels. Yeah.